Good afternoon, everyone. It's 12:30, and I'm happy to welcome you to our weekly briefing brought to you by the Emergency Leadership Team at Langston University. I'm Dr. Ruth Jackson, and I'm joined by my colleagues, the other members of the Executive Policy Group, Mrs. Teresa Powell, Vice President for Operations, Chief Mario Holland, LUPD, Dean Joshua Snavely, School of Business, Dean Joshua Busby, Dean of Students, and our special guest today, President Kent J. Smith, Jr. In today's webinar, we will begin by providing an update on COVID-19 cases in our community. We will review our testing protocol for all residential students. We'll again provide information about our vaccination survey. I'll provide an update on the HEEFR Phase 2 funding. We'll spend some time talking about the planning that's taking place for the 21-22 academic year, and we'll end by reflecting on resilience. At this time, I'd like Chief Holland to provide the update on COVID-19. Chief.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson, and good afternoon, everyone. As of noon today, the COVID-19 update for the state of Oklahoma, the total cases had a 0.6% weekly increase. The number of active cases in the state of Oklahoma had a 3% weekly decrease. And as far as deaths in the state of Oklahoma, there was a 2.1% weekly increase. For Logan County, there was a 0.3% weekly increase for the total cases, and the number of active cases had a 13.5% weekly decrease. And for the number of deaths, there was no change. For the university, the total cases are at 103, and the great news is we have no active cases for the university. And now I will ask Dean Busby to share with you some testing information for employees and students. Dean.
Thanks, Chief. As we're continuing our testing to utilize the complimentary testing services that's available through Total Wellness to mitigate the risk of COVID-19 on all of our campuses, remember that no appointments are necessary. This is available for employees and students. And so on this week, we're offering testing on the Langston campus from Tuesday to Friday from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. daily in the multi. We will not be offering testing in OKC or Tulsa. As we look at continuing to offer the testing for the next phase of campus-wide testing that's aimed at, again, mitigating the spread of COVID-19 on our campuses, our campus-wide resident testing will occur on Thursday, April 15th and Friday, April 16th. This again will occur in the multi from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And of course, students can make their appointments via the link that will be sent out later on, probably within the next week or so, that will be sent out. And at this time, I will turn it over to Vice President Powell to talk more about our COVID-19 Vaccine Administration Survey of Interest.
Thank you, Dean Busby, and welcome everyone. As we've shared in previous webinars and also via email messaging, we are conducting a survey of interest to gauge the interest of the university community in the administration of vaccines on our campuses. We have been working for some time through an RFP process to secure a vendor to administer vaccines if that supply becomes available to us through the state of Oklahoma. And this survey of interest really helps guide our decision-making on whether and how we will deploy those vaccines should that supply become available to us. We want to thank the over 70 responses that we have thus far. So thank you to the 72 people who have already completed that survey. If you have not already done so and you're interested in participating in the survey, you can use the QR code appearing on the screen now to complete that survey. It's a very simple 10 questions, helps get us some information that we need in order to guide that decision making. Even if your response is, I'm not interested and I think this is a lousy idea, we still want to know. And that helps us really make the decisions that we need to make in advance of rolling out this process. So again, thank you to all who have completed the vaccine survey of interest. And we just want to encourage the participation in that survey if you've not already done so. And now I will ask Dr. Jackson to share more about our HEEFR Grant Fund initiative. Dr. Jackson.
Thanks, VP Powell. So our HEEFR Phase 2 grant applications closed last Wednesday, March 31st. So thanks to the 1,130 students who completed the application by the deadline. As we've shared, the institution received $1.5 million of available funding to distribute to students who are enrolled in at least one course this semester, with priority being given to students who have demonstrated exceptional financial need. Notifications will be made this week, so students make sure that you monitor your Langston University email for that communication. So at this time, I would like to ask President Smith to share some insight into our planning for fall 2021. President Smith. Dr. Smith.
Well, it helps if I turn off the mute. I apologize. Good afternoon, Langston University community, to our faculty, staff, and students. I hope you're having a great afternoon, and I also hope that you had a great Easter weekend. I'll be really brief today. I'd like to talk a little bit about what we've learned, what we know, but most importantly, where we will go as a result to the university's response to COVID. We've worked very diligently over the past 12 months in keeping our community safe and communicating those outcomes to you on a weekly basis through this platform. And I certainly would like to thank our team for the great work that it continues to do, not only to plan modalities, if you will, in terms of a response to COVID, but in the constant communication and consistent communication with all of the Langston family. It really makes a difference, and I'm appreciative of the effort. We've learned a great deal over these past 12 months. I believe that we've proven our ability to shift very quickly to new modalities and operational postures. We've seen extraordinary creativity from our students, faculty, and staff in the delivery of these programs, our services, and certainly instruction as well. We've refined our protocols to mitigate risk. Many of our protocols were created in a time when the nature of the virus was pretty much broadly unknown. But we're now at a point to where we know more about the virus, how it behaves, and how it is transmitted. And that gives us an opportunity, I believe, and certainly our leadership team believes, to begin making a shift to what we'll now call the new normal for fall 2021. So what do we know? Above all these lessons, we know that this current mode of operation that we have been in and that we're currently in is not sustainable for our entire community. I've heard loud and clear from many faculty members and students, as well as staff, that we just continuing along these lines permanently is not the way to go and is not an advantage for many of those in our community. So reliance on mere virtual experiences does not work for all facets of the university family, and we recognize the need to shift to the new normal. So where will we go? As we shift to this new normal, you will see a continuation of many successful safety strategies with some adjustments. We will continue to require many of the protocols that we've kept on campus that have also afforded our campus to remain safe for the past 12 months. We will continue to require the use of masks and face coverings on campus, all of our campuses, and we will continue to encourage social distancing to the fullest extent possible in all spaces. We will also continue to require testing for all students who are residing on campus. However, the frequency of the testing will likely decrease in the fall due to the prevalence or increased prevalence of vaccinations. Our student athletes will continue to participate in testing in accordance with NAIA guidelines, though the frequency could shift. But we will follow the established patterns that we have for operational postures going into the fall. One of the pieces that I'm often have been asked, and certainly our leadership team has been asked in recent weeks, is whether or not the university will require COVID-19 vaccinations in order to be on campus, but mainly from students. At this time, the university has decided to not require the COVID-19 vaccinations. However, we will encourage all of those who do wish to get vaccinated to do so in support of the broader community. I've just received my second vaccination, so at this point I'm fully vaccinated. And so I would like to encourage everyone to consider, if they so choose, to getting the vaccination. Finally, last fall, we introduced a framework for the university activities during the times of crisis designated by certain campus levels. I'm sure most of you have heard about those, but also they relate to operational postures. They include 5 categories that we see as mission critical to the service of the institution. And they are coursework, events and meetings, housing, operations, research, and extension. And so for the remainder of the webinar, the leadership team would like to share updates surrounding these 5 categories. And now I will now ask Dr. Jackson to begin the update centered around coursework, and the group will follow from henceforward. Dr. Jackson?
Thanks, President Smith. In the fall of 2021, our coursework will focus and be delivered in 3 particular modalities. These are the modalities that we had in place pre-COVID: the traditional face-to-face modality, hybrid, which includes the expectation of face-to-face courses with a higher level of support through our learning management system of D2L, and our 100% online courses, which are designated in Banner as web. Please know that the majority of our courses on Langston University's campuses, as well as the site, will require face-to-face instruction so that we can have that return to authentic face-to-face in-person interactions between our faculty and our students, a hallmark of our university. While we do that, we'll continue to observe our required health protocols, specifically the safeguard of the continued use of face masks and coverings when in the classroom or other spaces like elevators, hallways, within the library or any academic building, or any place where social distancing isn't feasible. So I'll ask Chief Holland if he would tell us about our plans for events and meetings.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. So for the events and meetings for the fall 2021 semester, university events and meetings will be authorized during the next academic year pursuant to the required CDC guidelines, university guidelines, and health protocols. These safeguards are dependent upon the space and the size of the event. It could include required face coverings or mask, pre-event COVID-19 testing, temperature screenings, or other measures designed to mitigate health-related risk. Now I'll have Dean Busby to talk to you all about some housing information.
Thanks, Chief. And as it relates to housing and our approach to housing in the fall of 2021, our housing will continue to maintain the regular multiple student assignments in all of our apartment style living properties, which is Scholars Inn, Centennial Court, and the Commons, but we will continue the single occupancy in the only traditional style dorm that we have on campus, which is Young Hall. And of course, we'll have all of our residents, regardless of where they're staying, to continue to observe the health and safety protocols that we have in place. And of course, all of these protocols will include the required use of masks or face coverings in common areas, and the periodic mandatory COVID-19 surveillance testing, which is essentially what we've been doing all of this year. And at this time, I will turn it over to Vice President Powell to give us more information on operations.
Thank you, Dean Busby. And as we shared earlier, we are moving to a more in-person model for fall, which I think we're all looking forward to doing safely. With that said, as we expect our students to be back on campus, we are going to be phasing in our workforce to be back on campus as well for an in-person operational posture. So we will be sharing more information with supervisors on our approach to return to an in-person model for operations. We will, of course, continue to utilize technology and telework where appropriate and necessary. We will be sharing more guidance on that in conjunction with student employee services in the near future. Also, which was shared by Chief Holland earlier, on-campus events, on-campus meetings, we are going to be operating at an in-person posture with those as well, with some safety protocols in place to ensure continued safety. I'm excited personally for our on-campus tours to resume with prospective students. We authorized that recently with our Office of Admissions, so we're going to be seeing more activity coming soon with in-person experiences with some of the safety protocols in place. And I'll ask Dean Snavely now to share a little bit more on research and extension before sharing our final thoughts on additional considerations. Dean Snavely.
Thanks, Vice President Powell. Good to be with everyone today. I think in a similar way, over the last year, we've limited, restricted in some cases, some of the work of our amazing research and extension teams as they went out into communities, as communities came to us, as we participated in some of the groundbreaking and incredible work that happens on all of our campuses. We want that to return in full. We've scaled that over time to continue to return, but we look forward to utilizing our continued health protocols and allowing all of those activities to fully continue and even ramp up as long as they do so safely. So that's an important part of our experience on the Langston campus. And we look forward to those activities returning in full in the fall. Last thing we wanted to just mention, a phrase that we've used many times throughout this experience is that we've essentially been building a plane as we flew it, right? We kind of had this thrown on us, all of us, certainly lots of fear, uncertainty as we began, and over time, in some ways that continued, in others we began to understand, as Dr. Smith said, understand the virus better and how it traveled and how we were able to combat it. All of the things we've talked about today are sort of built on hopefully everything continuing in its current path. And as we've done from the beginning, we'll continue to rely on the CDC, the Oklahoma State Health Authorities, our peers and partners throughout the higher education system. But we don't know what the fall will bring. We don't know how the virus will react to vaccinations or how these different strains might impact spread in communities. And so while this is our plan, we continue to plan these items, we're going to have to continue to stay nimble. That's sort of the potential challenges that we might face that could change our operational posture. But we'll also face, hopefully continued advancements in what we learn and continued relief through either treatment measures or continued testing at home, testing in different ways, and then continued immunity as a result of vaccinations. So just want everyone to know that we're going to continue on a daily, if not weekly basis, being evaluating the data, seeing how we can continue to change. And some of those things will become certain quickly, others will take time to understand. So some of the things we're talking about right now and working with those partners to try to figure out is how we might modify campus-related requirements around employees and students who are vaccinated. That might be reduced testing in some cases. It might result in other modifications. We're just spoke about research and extension. We know there's a lot of other activities that rely on travel. So we're looking at how we can modify our guidance around travel. We know the CDC just Friday issued some additional domestic travel guidelines. So we're going to be working that into our protocols throughout the summer and into the fall. And as Vice President Powell mentioned, we want to learn from this experience. As Dr. Smith said, we've become much better in some ways as a result of technology and flexibility. And we want to build that into our guidance and into our operational posture while continuing to and returning to some of those things that make Langston so great and able to meet the needs of all of our students. So that's a brief list of probably 15 or 20 things that we're balancing and trying to figure out as the data and the science continues to change. So all of that will continue to drive our decision making, will continue to be driven by finding that balance between health and safety and the mission of the university. So with that, we're ready for our open discussion for either obviously questions for Dr. Smith or for the executive policy group. We would welcome those now.
Okay, we have one question so far. Mrs. Powell, would you take this one? The question is, how will teleworking be refashioned or redesigned as we move forward?
Great question. Thank you for that question. It will really be dependent upon the circumstances and the needs of individuals, and we're working with Student Employee Services to assess those and to revise our guidance on teleworking. We know that when we published our teleworking guidance early in the summer, early fall months, we did so just to make a very distinctive shift. And now it's going to be a more nuanced shift. We do, as I said, in my slide earlier, we do want to bring our workforce back for a broadly in-person experience because that's the expectation of our students or our workforce. Of course, our expectation is for those of us who are able to be on campus to do so as well. So I don't have a great detailed answer for you right now because it really is dependent on the circumstances and the needs. But we are working with Student Employee Services to make sure that we're considering those nuanced circumstances. And we'll be working with supervisors because we want to understand what those are as we build this guidance. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, VP Powell. We have another question. When will our urban campuses reopen to the public, to the larger community? Let's see, who would like to take this one? Dean Snavely?
Sure. Great question. Thanks for the question. One of the key sort of threshold matters that we're currently working through with the task force is what more robust event and meetings look like. As Chief outlined in his portion, we intend to fully authorize the return of events on the campuses and sites pursuant to certain health protocols. And as a part of that, we've asked a task force, a multi-stakeholder group from that represents multiple departments and sites to help us think through what those capacities look like in the different areas, what the protocols look like depending on the groups that hope to use the campuses, particularly the urban campuses. And we've been working both, I know Dr. Davis and Dr. Jones serve on that task force, and we're in close consultation with them because we know that they have a better sense often of what those intimate needs of their local communities need. So we don't have a date certain. It's heavy on our mind. We want to reopen those as quickly as possible and, while being safe. But I think that's just around the corner once we're able to put those protocols in place and begin to allow those activities to return to the campuses. So stay tuned. In short order, we hope to see that rolled out.
Thank you, Dean Snavely. Related to that, I'm sure we'll have similar questions. While that one is about our campus access for community members, we'll continue to, I'm sure, receive requests for events. So Dean Busby, would you talk a little bit about that task force and its involvement in events that are occurring on the Langston campus?
Thanks, Dr. Jackson. And so also thanks Dean Snavely for the comprehensive response. And so the same task force is also looking at, again, all of our campuses and what activities and the event request process would be, what the level of approval would need to be based on the, how many occupants you're expecting to have, and what the max capacity of the space that you're requesting to utilize is as well. And so that task force is working to develop that for all of our campuses now. Also doing some piloting now here on the Langston campus with some events via Student Life. And so AD Sims and his team have put together some programming for our student body, and all of them have gone off well, thanks to those faculty members and those building managers that have supported the cause. I know we've done some things in the library as well, and Dr. Simpson's been very supportive there. And so as we continue to progress in the semester, there's going to be a few more programs that we're looking to, again, open up a little bit more, but also piloting and what the process is and what the task force is working on and what their recommendations will be. And that will be essentially how we will roll into the fall as well. Thanks, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Dean. So I don't see any more questions in our chat or the Q&A function, but as always, we'd like to remind you that you can send any questions that you may have to luelt@langston.edu, and we'll be happy to cover them, but you'll also receive an individual response. So at this time, we will move into our segment where we focus on reflecting on resilience. And for this, I'll ask Dean Busby if he will share this week's resilience.
Thanks, Dr. Jackson. So this week, we actually today, we are hosting on 3 of our 4 campuses, the Help Your Neighbor Blood Drive, which is a partnership between the university, the American Red Cross, and our friends at One Oak. And so this morning at 10 a.m., we begin our blood drive here on campus. And of course, you got to walk the walk, you got to talk the talk, right? And so that is not a staged picture. I did give blood. I have my t-shirt on as well. And so we will be on campus. Well, actually, the American Red Cross will be on campus today from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. for any of our colleagues on the Langston campus that want to give blood. We're adhering to all CDC guidelines, protocols, everything there. Actually have a nice digital instrument there that takes your temperature when you come in. And I think when I left to come back to the office, we were already at about 15 to 20 donations as well. For those of you that are in Tulsa and Oklahoma City, you too can support. We start there at 2:30 today from 2:30 to 7:30. That's our friend Mike Clark in the back. I'm sorry, back there, who's one of our friends at One Oak. Of course, One Oak is our largest corporate donor in the institution's history. And so he's been a great supporter as well. And as we go to the next slide, you will see just some other pictures of how we had it set up here, the area. I do want to say that I am not cloned. If you look at the picture in the right, that is me to the left. That is my newfound twin brother that I didn't know about. That's AVP Brooks over to the right there, but as well. And so he and VP Jones are leading our efforts in Tulsa. Dr. Davis leading the efforts in Oklahoma City. But you can see kind of the layout there that we have in the multi, and it'll be something similar at LU Tulsa and LU OKC. And of course, for our students, every student that gives, that's able to donate, will be entered into a drawing to win on the Langston campus, one of 2 $500 scholarships. And then we're giving away one $500 scholarship in Tulsa, as well as Oklahoma City. You see the shirts there. We have these shirts ready for you. I do see a few of our colleagues that are present in the webinar that gave earlier this morning. Thank you so much for your support. And so again, we just thank all of our community, the Langston University community here in Langston and Tulsa and Oklahoma City for supporting and helping your neighbor, because what we found out is that every donation saves up to 3 lives. And so we're really proud of this and the work and the effort that is going into it. And we look forward to this continued partnership in the future. Thanks so much, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Dean Busby. And again, everyone's encouraged to go out and, as the t-shirt says, help your neighbor. So we've come to the end of our webinar, and I'd like to thank you as always for joining us. We hope that you are finding these sessions informative. If there are topics that you would like covered in a future webinar, again, feel free to share that recommendation with us at luelt@langston.edu. Our next webinar will be held next Monday at 12:30, and we hope that you'll join us. So until then, take care, Lions. Have a great week.